So record to this. Good morning, everybody. I'm Jessie Schmidt. I'm the Director of Orange County Restorative Justice, and we are the fiscal agent for the federal award that we received, grant number 15 PBJA 22GG01205 BRND from the Bureau of Justice Assistance. We are here to answer questions about the release the request for proposals for our initiative, statewide initiative for equity through data, justice, inclusion, and education. And I'm going to, I am a member of the leadership team here for our statewide project, and I'm going to allow the other members of the leadership team to introduce themselves. Rachel, kick us off.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Rachel Jolly, she, her pronouns. I'm the director at the Burlington Community Justice Center and a member of this leadership team. I'll hand it off to Alexis.
Alexis, did you catch that? Do you want to introduce yourself? There you go.
I didn't. I was wondering. I'm like, today, Alexis Proyaneka, Community Social Justice, part of the leadership team, and Amara.
Good morning, everyone. Hopefully this is coming through. Omara Rivera Vasquez. I'm the ED for the Community Restorative Justice Center in St. Johnsbury, and I'm a member of the leadership team. Kendra, you want to go next?
Yes, good morning. My name is Kendra Malone, pronouns they, them, and I am a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant.
All right. And then I'm Abby Whipple, and I use she, her pronouns. I am the founder of the VELA by Restorative Justice Data Systems, but we just go by VELA because that's a mouthful. I'm a founder of that nonprofit, which has seed funding from the National Center on Restorative Justice to coordinate and support the implementation of data systems for restorative justice programs across the country. And I've also worked in restorative justice for a little over 10 years, and I still do some training and consultation and then facilitation of high impact cases. And that's me.
All right, thank you, everybody. I'm going to do a quick screen share just to make sure you guys and anybody who might be watching this video knows where to find information. And unfortunately, my page is not, oh, there it is. Okay, here we go. You can find information and any updates to the request for proposals on this web page. We will be posting the video here, and also any updates. I will draw your attention to the initial update that we put here, which is that there was an error in the initial release, which is these are 1-year contracts. Initially, it had said May 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2023. That was meant to be June 30th, 2024. So you can find that information here. And also the initiative's mission, which is focused on these 3 outcomes and orients the 3 requests for proposals that we put out for consideration. And all right. So we're going to start off with the questions that we received by email. The first question was, what are the terms of extending contracts beyond 1 year? We have the option to extend our federal funding for an additional 9 months. And so if you feel like you'll need more time to execute your proposal, we'd like you to include that in your work plan, with the understanding that there would not be additional funding. You should put your best and final offer into the proposal. We can extend time, but we won't be able to add additional funding for that time. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Anything to add, leadership team? Okay. The second question was specific to the data and evaluation project. And specifically, if we were going to, this included all 8 programs that were included in Appendix 1. And yes, it does. So a lot of the programs you'll find there's a lot of overlap in how the programs are executed using restorative principles, and often a lot of overlap in the people that we're serving as well. And within each one of those programs, there are slightly different data collection requirements and reporting of outcomes that have to be considered. So that's why we delineated those individually. Anything to add, folks, about that? All right. The third question is, are there any reports published or currently available? We would encourage you to reach out to the state funders directly if you want to see what reports are publicly available. That's going to be probably the most efficient and fair way for people to access information about the data that's collected and how it's presented to the public right now.
And maybe we can provide the 3 contact names for the 3 primary funders, and then maybe on the website also we could list their information. Just I don't have their contact information at the ready, but the names of the 3 would be Willa Farrell at the Attorney General's office, the Vermont Attorney General's office, who's the director of the Court Diversion and Community Justice Unit. I think that's what it's called. And then Derek Miodovnik, I think it's Miodijvnik, but I'm not 100% sure on that. And he is the grant manager or the director of the Community and Restorative Justice Unit at the Vermont Department of Corrections. And Lindy Boudreau, the director of Juvenile Justice at the Vermont Department for Children and Families. I'm assuming that you can find those that information even without being able to spell Derek's last name well if you Googled, but we can figure out if that contact info should be posted.
And I'll add that Jean Nelson is the primary contact for the victims of crime grants that are provided to restorative justice centers in the state.
Out of the Vermont Center for Crime Victim Services.
Thank you. Yeah, and that information was posted or links to the primary websites for those programs is on the webpage and also in the RFPs. Yeah. And what prompted a DEI specific RFP? Rachel, do you want to?
Yeah, in terms of context, again, the 23 agencies that this grant is covering or including, or these 3 RFPs are including, have their own histories in terms of longevity. Some have been around for decades. Some are younger than, like 5 or 6 years. Each have their own history, but generally, I think it's safe to say that given the community justice bent of all of us and the inherent ties with the criminal legal system that does involve disparities, racial and other kinds. Many of the agencies have been involved in this work for some time. However, I will say that George Floyd's murder in 2020, combined with the pandemic, put an extra focus, a spotlight on these disparities, and 2, the criminal legal systems and complicitness with it, and had the CJCs and others, the these agencies aren't all called community justice centers, but these 23 agencies who are involved in community justice felt called to do more than we have, and that in a more unified way. And so I would say in that first year, 2020, the Vermont Association of Court Diversion and Pretrial Programs, VACDAP is the acronym, did draft some commitments that we wanted to hold ourselves accountable to around racial justice, and opened it up to all the other organizations to join us in signing those commitments. And so since that time, we've been looking for more leadership truly, and more action on living up to those commitments and actually going beyond them. And so I feel like that's the context for the centers of why we applied for this congressional earmark that resulted in this award from the Bureau of Justice, and then out of which came these 3 RFPs. But Alexis, Omar, and Jesse should all feel free to add to that.
And I'll add that in addition, we know through the data that has been collected in Vermont that our justice system reflects what we see nationwide, which is disparities in incarceration, disparities in policing. The people who are being pulled over are overrepresent people of color in our state. And so we acknowledge that we are facing this similar systemic racism within our systems that need to be addressed. And I think in knowing that, we want, circling back to restorative justice, the intention behind this is that we feel compelled to look at our own systems for similar systemic injustices that might exist within our restorative justice practices. Omara, did you want to add anything to that, or Alexis? Okay.
Having connection issues, so go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard when there are storms in Vermont, the internet goes kablooey. We'll open the floor to questions. And Abby, I see you raised your hand, so if you want to.
Thanks. I was in a meeting yesterday and folks were using that, and I was like, oh, how clever. I forgot about that function. Yeah, I have 2 questions. The first one is, are you all able to share these commitments that it sounds like the CGCs and then later the 23 agencies all agreed to around DEI?
Yes, and I will make sure that specifically gets posted to the website.
They're on the court diversion website, as well as some of the individual agencies as well. But the court diversion website probably is the easiest one to find them on, but we could also post.
And then my second question is it possible to access the data that's showing disparities in policing? And if not, can you direct me to specifically which contact would be able to share that information, or if it's public at all?
I believe, was that spearheaded by the crime research group, that data collection?
Yes, and others. I feel like there's kind of like a lot of data that shows that those disparities, so different municipalities as well as statewide, but the crime research group might be the easiest single point of focus.
Okay, and is the crime research group connected to any of those 4 contact people? No, separate? Okay.
Kendra, you said you had a question as well?
I did. So I am an independent contractor, so I'm not a part of a nonprofit or a business. And I noticed that SAM requires to receive your entity registration that you either are a business or an organization. Does that therefore make me ineligible to apply for this opportunity with you all?
I don't know the parameters for registering with SAM.
Yeah, I've tried several times and you have to have some kind of legal business or nonprofit title to be able to register in SAM.
Yeah, I know you have to have some kind of SAM ID. But I will, just to get absolute clarity on that, reach out to our grants manager and ask about, just see if I can get any additional clarity on independent contractors and that system. So sorry, I don't know that specifically, but.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you looking into that. And I, did my best to do due diligence to kind of explore what options are there. And so I would just, highlight that as we're talking about disparities, the requirement that someone have either a business or a proper 501c3 or other type of entity makes it challenging for a lot of independent contractors, particularly people of color, queer folks, to be able to contribute to these opportunities. So if I do pursue it, it looks like I'll have to start an LLC in a very short time frame. So yeah, please, I would appreciate any clarity you could provide, Jesse. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for raising awareness. I didn't realize that was a requirement of SAM registration either. So
yes, I believe that it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I will, I'll follow up with a SAM question. At what stage does the SAM registration and good standing need to be when proposals are submitted? Right now, I'm in this, I guess, holding period where I had to submit documents and I don't know the timeline for when I'm going to hear back. So anyways, it's underway, but I haven't been issued a number for the nonprofit. So does that all need to be cleared up by March 14th, or will there be a little bit of time afterward?
Yeah, so I would say to indicate in your proposal at what phase you are in the SAM registration process. We won't be able to sign a contract with you until your SAM status is A-okay with the federal government. But I also had to update my SAM and I understand how incredibly cumbersome it is. So we'll give as much leeway as we can if your proposal is accepted to give you time to get through the SAM registration system.
I do have another question. So what kind of technical assistance do you anticipate being able to provide either from the leadership team that's kind of overseeing these initiatives, or from kind of other entities to folks who are providing these services to you all?
Can you be more specific about what you mean about technical assistance?
So is there room within the leadership team to support contractors in making introductions, or meeting on a basis determined to be most beneficial for getting to know the different organizations? Is there an expectation that the leadership team or other folks connected to this work in Vermont will provide what I would consider fairly intensive ability to support the entities doing this work, either through meetings or questions, or like you gave us references to the folks to contact to get different types of data sets? Is that something that the leadership team expects will be a part of their work.
Rachel, I see you nodding your head. Do you want to take that?
Yeah, my sense is that it would be beneficial to hear in the proposal of what kinds of things,
Sure.
but the kinds of examples you gave, absolutely. I feel like it's the leadership team's role to facilitate the efficacy of our contractors and do whatever we can to connect dots, to bridge, to, you know, coordinate levels. It's mostly the lift that we knew that we didn't have the capacity to do, of actually, you know, as well as the expertise, of course, but obviously, not obviously, the leadership team is here to help the contractors be effective. So the kinds of examples you mentioned, I would see absolutely within the role of our team.
Great, thank you.
I'll also add that our hope is, as these projects get underway, that we actually will be forming committees with other Justice Center leaders to specifically focus on these projects and to give more concentrated feedback and as well. So we're trying to build an inclusive and transparent process with all of the justice agencies to get this work done. And we want to, again, provide our contractors with as much support as they need to be effective in implementing the project.
I do have another question along those lines, especially because I'm coming from the data and evaluation angle. For any of the, and this is I don't know, feel free to decline to answer this question, but is there any resistance among the 23 agencies? And for any of them, will this feel sort of like a top-down mandatory project that they have to participate in, or people, because you all sign those commitments, feeling on board and incentivized, or are they incentivized intrinsically?
These are 23 independent organizations. I think within that there is some diversity around interest as well as capacity to engage in this work. And I will also say that we did have a statewide launch for this initiative in the fall, and we had nearly 100% participation, and the folks who couldn't come RSVP'd with regrets that they couldn't be there to participate. So I think there is overwhelming support, and again, it, you know, depending on different factors, capacity, I think, is going to be the biggest barrier to how much people can be involved. And we did craft our grant language with an understanding that not everybody may be able to or want to be involved in every aspect of this proposal. It's not a mandate for agencies, but we are hoping that we're going to provide things that are useful to folks, and they're going to want to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I would only add that with the 3 funders are also in strong support and have come along with us, and the 3 groups, you know, these 3 funders have various meetings that include each of these organizations that are funded by them. Some of them overlap all 3, some 2, some 1, but updates about this initiative have been given in those kinds of meetings all along the way for all these months. So I would underscore what Jesse said, that there's definitely support. I wouldn't say there's any resistance, but in terms, like, wouldn't couch the capacity thing as resistance. It would be kind of what people felt like, the ability to, how many meetings can I go to? But I do feel like there's definitely the overwhelming support for all, you know, the 3 and the overall initiative and the 3 RFP ideas and concepts.
Thank you. I'm going to ask a follow-up question based on a conversation that I had with another state, which is, do you all see any benefit or reason to share the funding back with some of the programs to compensate their participation, with a nod to these projects potentially stretching their capacity. And I'll just say that I was explicitly asked by another state to do what I'm saying, is essentially receive money and then compensate programs that chose to participate. So is that an expectation at all with this project?
We do have some funding set aside within this grant to offer compensation to organizations that participate in terms of time and mileage. I think if you want to build that into your proposal, I'd encourage you to do that, and that might go into the consideration of how we are able to expend the funds that we have set aside to support that, if that makes sense. And I appreciate, I'll just say that I think that's an important consideration. If your proposal expects a lot of time or is going to demand a lot of time from organizations to provide you information or, interviews or whatever, that, I would consider that an appropriate consideration in your proposal to outline that and take that into consideration around how organizations might need to be compensated.
Unless we get on another topic, I just want to be transparent that no other questions are coming to the surface for me. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Kendra, to see if what's percolating for you.
Thanks, Abby, and I appreciate your follow-up questions, because I had some similar ones, so great minds. So after this call, Jesse, should we have further questions? Are you the contact to reach out to?
Unfortunately, after this call, we can't take any further questions regarding the proposal.
Okay.
This is the deadline for questions, so
Okay.
we will post the follow-up, some of the links and documents that have been requested, and the recording here.
Great,
So,
thank you for that clarification.
and if you have any additional questions that you just want to rattle off, we can always post them to the website. Yeah. Anything is
great. Thank you.
All right. Is that everything? Anything you, Rachel, Omara, or Alexis, you guys want to add? Okay.
Thanks, everybody, for your time.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. We appreciate it. And yeah, please go to the website for additional updates, follow up from this conversation.
Yeah, and I just want to, I guess, change hats really quick, if it's okay, and say, from a practitioner perspective and an RJ supporter perspective, thanks for doing this. And this is really coming from a different side of my role and participation and hopefully the RJ movement. But yeah, I would like to see this be a model for other states. It's just, it's exciting that you all sought funding specifically on these terms, because it's a big question and issue coming up for restorative justice all around the country. So I'm really excited. I'm hoping that there's going to be a lot of conference presentations on the work that y'all are able to do in the next couple years. So yeah.
Thank you. We're really excited to have this opportunity. So we appreciate it. All right.
Yes, thank
Thanks,
you for
all.
your thoughtfulness, and yeah, keep doing good work.
Thank you.